How does cocaine rehab work? This, like any other rehab, it's the same idea. So it's to stop the drug of choice or substance of use, whether it's alcohol or opioids or crystal meth, and to enter into the program. Sometimes there's a detox process required so that a person is medically stabilized. If there's any major withdrawal symptoms, they can be given medications to counter that. So with cocaine, some people do need a short period of detox, especially if they've been long-term chronic users. However, they don't always need to, because there's not a major withdrawal syndrome associated with cocaine cessation. That being said, speaking to their physician to get on a medication like clonidine, which helps with the tremulousness and the anxiety. Also getting on maybe some antidepressants as well could help. But the actual recovery process is the most important part about anybody's recovery, and it is here where the person can learn new behaviors associated with remaining abstinence. So how to cope with stress, how to deal with emotional problems, how to deal with interpersonal issues, for example, how to speak up about their problems, to voice their concerns. It took me a long time to learn this. I am also in recovery, and it's a skill like any other to learn how to assert myself, to not be afraid of speaking in publicly, even with other users in a small, safe group. Even that was daunting. And to learn how to speak up and express myself and tell others what I'm going through and what sort of feelings I'm having. So I know that's not the usual thing for a lot of people. They're not comfortable with that, but that's what recovery requires of people. Rehab is a healthy environment. It's an environment where people are completely abstinent of their substance of choice. They're with other like-minded people who are going through the same process, but they're all in various stages of this. And this is helpful to the user who's new to this, because knowing there are other people going through with it and who've conquered it and who've made it through the hardest parts, that's very helpful for somebody to see that recovery is possible. In recovery, in a rehab, there's also drug treatment counselors or social workers, physicians, nurses. It all depends on that particular rehab, and these are good questions to ask, like who is on staff, psychologists also. Any of the above are helpful. If it's a medical rehab that allows somebody to detox, that's when it's better to have doctors and nurses, but not all rehabs need to have them. Drug treatment counselors, social workers, and psychologists are the most important part, because these are the people who are the ones who can oversee your recovery and to identify any issues going on and to ask you the hardest parts of why it is that we use. What are the behaviors that I exhibit? This defiance, for example, that rebelliousness. A case of the fuck-its is another one where a person just doesn't care about anything. It's a form of futilism. So those sort of behaviors are identified and corrected in rehab. Finally, it's just a place to live life free of stresses, and this is important because it's already stressful enough to not use our substance of choice. So being free and buffered away from life stresses is really important in a rehab. That's why a residential rehab is better for most people, because they can live their life free of stresses. There's less likelihood of relapse as well, because you're in a safe environment, drug-free ideally. And in this situation, it's important to just take solace in other people. There's a lot of loving and healing that takes place behind the closed doors of a rehab. There's also interpersonal issues too. That's going to happen, but that's important. This is a good stressor that a person can start learning new coping mechanisms of how to deal with interpersonal conflict. Rehab is not the end of it, and once a person does graduate a rehab, then there's ongoing care. Some live in a sober living home. Some will return to their own homes, but it's important either way to stay connected to the community, the broader community, yes, but also the community of people who are in recovery. So for example, I go to an aftercare group, which means after rehab Aftercare group. And this is people, it's not all people who've gone to rehab, but people who are all in stages of recovery. And it's important to have this ongoing dialogue where I can open up and share my issues with them. Everybody shares their daily joys and stresses and hardships. And it works on the principle that by sharing in a group with other people, it helps my own recovery. Addiction is an illness of isolation, whereas recovery is all about connection. And in these 12-step groups or aftercare groups, or even with a therapist, I'm connected with other people and I'm expressing myself. And that's really important for my own mental health and well-being. So to summarize, rehab is a place that allows people to be buffered from the regular stresses of life. They can stop their drug of choice. They can sometimes go through early stages of mild withdrawal in rehab. It's okay, as long as they're medically stable. And they can start learning new techniques of coping with life stresses without relying on their crutch. They can learn to take solace in other people, learn to open up, learn how to deal with interpersonal conflict, and to, most important, have enduring friendships. I still stay in touch with the people that I met at all 3 of the rehabs that I went to. And having this sense of community and connection is really important to an enduring recovery.
We've helped over 1 million Americans completely recover from substance abuse. Call now at 1-800-615-1067. Call now.